Hey, welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it. You might be wondering, why are we here today? Well, I can't necessarily say why I'm specifically at Acorn Acres other than I really wanted some real upbeat music and a nice scenery. And what could be more scenic than, there we go, that kind of waterfall type thing, geyser, whatever, in the background. Is that a geyser? Yeah, sure, we'll call it a geyser. You guys are amazing, that's for sure. But I figured, I just want to talk. So basically, as you may have indicated by the title or what you got a glimpse of at least, this is definitely going to be an Uber talk and just basically this video will serve as like a video guide of some sort. I'm sure there's some written guides out there, but especially if you're new to the Uber world, this might be beneficial or helpful. Or if you just want to earn some more information about Ubers or gain that type of knowledge, hopefully this will help in that regard. And I kind of figured I wanted to do this at my estate at first, just to, get like that's, you know, nostalgic feel back of videos long ago when I used to be at my estate doing them. But there's no music playing in the background, and I just kind of figured it's probably better just to have some light music going in the background here rather than that awkward silence. So with that said, just going to talk about Ubers. And the first thing that's important to know, at least for a lot of people, is what is an Uber? Because you hear the term thrown around, but not everyone knows what it means, which is perfectly, that's very valid because people just don't know. People who are new, people who just been never exposed to Ubers before. So what is an Uber? Essentially boils down to someone, a tune who has low laugh and high gags. And what exactly does that mean? So you see this beautiful 139, that is a very high laugh. But a low laugh in terms of an Uber, you could start with like the 15 or, when you start out, or if you happen to do that first little part, you become 16 laugh. But essentially, like you could start at 15 or 16 laugh, or if you do the tasks in TTC without coming into 10 or more fish or doing any of the gardening or any of the racing and such, however, the other activities, I should phrase it, that would put you at about 25 laugh. And then if you do all of Donald's Duck, that would put you at and again, keeping activities like at 0, if you don't gain anything from that, that would put you at 34, I believe. That's what I have written down at least. 34. So those are kind of considered the different tiered Ubers. Obviously, for a 15 or 16 laugher, you're only going to have access to, there we go, the throw and squirt gags, in which case they would have the wedding cake and the geyser only. If they don't do any tasks at all, that would just be kind of the only gag tracks available, obviously. If you finish TTC, you're going to have access to either sound or tune up. I will say either is fine because definitely both are good ways of going about it, different ways of thinking about it in terms of Ubers. A lot of them, though, I will say, have sound. And so if you complete the TTC task line, you would have access to 3 gag tracks maxed at about, again, 25 laugh. And so for those of you who know my Uber, for example, he has sound. And so these 3 here are maxed. Then for Donald's Dock, obviously, if you're an Uber who completes that portion of it, they will either have access to lure or drop. And so again, both are fine ways of going about it. I've seen this one's a little more split than the sound tune-up type thing, because more people break sound than tune-up. But in terms of lure or drop, from my experiences at least, I want to know how. Yeah, I want to know how to phrase this carefully. It's probably more around like 70-30 breaking to lure. I've seen way more lure on Ubers that I've seen drop. There's a couple different reasons for that, at least. Um, like with the piano, for example, I mean, it does a lot of damage, but trading drop is a pain, and especially if you're an Uber, it becomes a bit more of a pain, especially if it misses, especially considering drop has a low accuracy rate as it is. I mean, Blur's not perfect by any regards, by any means, but it does work more often than not. So that's kind of why I think I see more people towards Blur, but it's not as much of a divide as, say, like, you know, almost everyone goes with sound. If they do a 3-tracker or a 4-tracker, they go with sound. Yeah, I see a lot of 4-trackers with Blur, sound, Zero, Squirt. And that's essentially it, because so the next step, pulling up the map, the next step would be, if you do that, then that. Essentially, Uber stop at Donald Stock. They don't move on to Easy Gardens typically. Now, certainly, like, the max amount of laugh an Uber could have is 47, and that's counting the fact that, like, you know, once you reach the Hollywood level and you gain those specific laugh points along the way, you know, the 5 different laugh points from building up your disguise to Hollywood level 50. So, with that said, the max amount they would have before that would be 42. So certainly there's a lot of wiggle room because, again, as I said, once you complete Donald Stock and you don't get any extra laugh points, you're going to be at 34, I believe. So there is some wiggle room if you accidentally come across an extra laugh point, or if you want to ensure that you don't go sad as much as possible, so you gain a couple extra laugh here or there. Again, though, that typically a lot of Ubers just try and stay to that 34, but again, there's nothing wrong with going up to the max amount necessary because that's what's allowed. So yeah, that's what's kind of deemed like lower laugh. Anything less than 47 for a Sellbot Uber. I should specify this is for a Sellbot Uber. I will get to Cashbot Ubers in a moment. But yeah, for Sellbot Ubers, that'll get you to 47 laugh, and then obviously maximum allowed, and then up to 4 gag tracks. So now for this next part here, I'm just gonna try and explain some of the information I've written down in a guide. Again, I wrote a guide several months ago. I think I might be able to divulge some of that information out here in a video, more accessible to people. And realistically, you might be wondering, okay, so cool, I really want to build an Uber. What should I do? What, should it look like? Well, okay. As with any tune, one of the first things you need to decide is, you have a theme. Is there something you're going for? Those of you that know my Uber, I go on a Lyft. It's just a fun name. I don't want to necessarily say there's a theme going on with it, because it's not a theme for sure, but it was just a fun name I wanted to try. So that's something you want to keep in mind. Is there a fun name or a theme you want to go with when you're building your own Uber? So that's something that you need to think about first. And you have the different species, and it's really up to you. It's your choice. That's part of the fun too. You have a lot of choices in terms of what you want it to look like. Whatever you want to name your Uber, there's a variety of names you can try. You could make it any species. It's like sampling, ice cream flavors. There are so many options. You want to try them all. But here's the scoop. Get it? Because scoop and ice cream, but never mind. But basically, though, the key to this is that whatever you want should work for you. And any size works, whether you want to do the short, medium, very tall, or the, I don't even know what the sizes are, but like, any of the 3 sizes work as well. So, both in terms of height and width, I guess. Oh, I don't know if tunes, do they call it height and width with tunes? I don't even know, but still, it's up to you. all three are perfectly fine, regardless of how you want to go about it. Any type of combination with the three heights or the three widths, any combination, whatever that gut feeling of yours wants to do. And so, yeah, you can pick a tune name that's up there that looks appealing, type a name, a suggestion, as long as it gets accepted. Anything you have in mind, really, just as long as you keep it tuney, that's the main thing. And again, if you do type a name, just keep in mind that it might take some time for the name to get approved, so please just have patience with that. So what's the purpose of Selbot Ubers? And that's something that you might be wondering. So, it's like, okay, great, I want to build an Uber, I want to do this, that, the other. But why am I doing this? Well, that's a very good question. It's essentially a way to make the Selbot VP a little more challenging, at least for the Selbot Ubers. Again, I'll get to Cashbots in a minute because it's a little easier, but with Selbot Ubers, it's a little more, not complex, but there's a lot more variety to it again. It's more nuanced in that regard. So again, it's just, a challenge in defeating the Selbot VP because, again, if you have a gag miss or, RNG is not on your side, in other words, there is a potential to go sad. Just adds an extra dimension to the game. And really, that's part of the fun. That's why we do it. It's just for that fun. And that's why communication is key in any type of round you're doing. So that way you can make sure you know what you're doing and that you're on top of the game. So next, we're going to turn our attention to how do you trade your Uber? So what's my advice in terms of how you want to trade your Uber? Well, definitely there are a lot of different ways of slicing it. My recommendation is really when you start out with your tier 1 to 3 gags, so oops, wrong button. There we go. Anyone who's known me knows that I always press for the wrong one first. But anyway, tier kind of like 1 to 3, anywhere in here, because you're not necessarily gaining a lot out of it as it is, it's best to just kind of do those in street battles. Because again, if you just have, for example, these 4, there's no way you're going to be able to take on a level 5 building with just, I'll put it this way, even if it's yourself and 3 others or, 3 friends, for example. The only way these become effective really is on the top floor, because that's where you gain the most experience. And you're kind of limited into how many you can carry as it is. Now, granted, the, gag pouch may not change if you just, for example, stay a 15 or 16 laugher. And even as like a 25 laugher where you have a larger gag pouch, or even a 34 laugher, larger gag pouch, those are actually a lot more flexible in terms of gags you can carry. But specifically for 15, 16 laughers, these become most effective on higher floors. And even at that, you're not getting as much experience out of it, say, than over here. So again, my recommendation is from tier 1 to tier 3 gags. You just kind of start those in street battles, maybe you find an invasion. Let me just kind of, where are we at? Are there really no invasions? Okay, there we go. Okay, I would not do that invasion. No. Although, okay, so at the time of this recording, I believe the trick still works where you could go into an invasion district, and then you could hop into Welcome Valley, which would put you in TTC. But you could go about the streets there, and you would still get the invasion bonus for gag XP. That's something, if it still works, you could do that. At least get them up to level 4, the tier 4 gag track at least. And certainly it helps when you have other tunes willing to help, whether it's other Ubers, you have friends. any of that really works. Now, the other thing I will say is that maxing these gags, or at least progressing through the tracks, takes a lot of patience. It's really an endurance competition, if you think about it. You're enduring a lot, as an Uber especially. So again, just work on it little by little, and you will certainly get there in I want to say in no time. It might seem like it takes a bit of time, but I assure you, it won't take as long as you think it is. Once you start going into the tier 4 gags, that's when I think you can start going into cog buildings with other tuned friends and just using those gags. I do think that once you reach into the tier 6 kind of gag range, because again, you are an Uber and you do have lower laugh, so it is important to have higher gags, I should say. That way you can infiltrate the Cellbot cog factories and build up your disguise, which is exciting. Everyone loves your cog disguises. So again, with your Cellbot disguise, you just have to defeat the factory 10 times. So again, if you got through the game, you know you have a tuned task. At some point in Daisy Gardens asking you to infiltrate a Cellbot factory, in which case you get a disguise piece, and they remark how fascinating it is and all that. You don't necessarily need the task, though, to build up that disguise, which is fascinating. And so you could acquire it at any time. You could start from the get-go if you wanted to. But you just need to defeat the factory foreman 10 times to gain all 10 disguise parts. Once you obtain this, you will need to gain merits. And obviously, as you start out, you don't need that many merits. There's a lot of merit, though, to the conversation of just trying to, gain them as quickly and efficiently as possible. So when you're starting out, for example, I forget the exact number you need. It's not a lot. It might just be like 40 or 50, or it's not a lot of merits. My point being, you could just go in the street and defeat cogs easily that way. You don't need to do another factory, especially if you're an Uber and then it finds up that if the foreman, you go sad because of bad RNG, and then you just wasted all that time. I know that sounded overly dramatic, but no, it's true. You might have wasted some time when you only needed, a small amount of merits that could easily be obtained in the streets. Well, so in terms of numbers, one thing to consider is that if you're doing a traditional short factory, that's 480 merits, with the traditional route. If you do a long factory, that's 776 merits. There's a medium factory at the side entrance that will give you 584 merits. You can also avoid a certain room with a medium and get 520 merits. So again, it's all just kind of about what do you need? What's the most efficient route in getting them? And upon reaching Mr. Hollywood level 13, you will earn teleport access to Cellbot HQ. So it's between that 12 to 13 level, you'll gain access. And the good news is, once you reach Mr. Hollywood level 50, you no longer have to earn merits, and you're free to join as many Uber VPs as you want. Yay! Everyone's excited to hear that one. Next, it is important to consider what to expect during the actual run itself. In a previous video, I showcased the group Superstars, where we decided to take on a Cellbot Uber VP. I showcased 2 runs that we did. We typically do 2 runs per day, or per whenever we decide to host a run for our run days. There we go. That made sense. So basically, yeah, sure, that made sense. And so yeah, basically for the runs itself, it's important to have at least one gag track maxed. So by the time you're ready to go in, you should have at least one max. So whether it's your 2-tracker, you have either throw or squirt maxed, or if you're a 3-tracker, you have one of these maxed, or however it works, however your Uber looks like, you should still have at least one maxed. And so, hey, look, I'm barely able to do this. And so basically, communication is key also in that regard, because if you go in with, for example, you have up to Foghorn with your sound, you're a 3-tracker, you have up to Foghorn, but you just got it, it's not going to do max damage. So essentially, if it's not, it's in like the 30 kind of damage range, I consider it like a elephant trunk as it is, just so that way, because it's not going to do max damage. And the way how the math works with cogs, it is important to consider whether you're doing max damage or whether you need to do a little more to attain the right amount of damage required. So that way you don't go sad. So communication is key, whether you could say like, um, you could type like, this is not maxed. I'm saying, oops, I'm saying what the, you know what? Okay, I was trying to play with everyone by making you think that I'm, typing just by speech, but no, I screwed up the words anyway, though. Or you could say, like, battle help, or is there something that says, like, I need help or something, or... I mean, help would essentially get the point across, I would think. Especially now that you can, on the gag panel, you can hover over each choice and see if something is maxed or not, or you can look at a tuned gag panel and see, like, hey, this doesn't look maxed at all, I should probably do a little more. But again, that communication is key. Selecting the right amount of gags is also important too, or going back to the gag damage and such. If you have a level 12 Hollywood that comes out, and you're on a side of just 3 total, for example, if for whatever reason we have 7 in a run or 7 in a group, and you get sided with the side with 3. Hopefully one of you has lure or lure SOS or something in that regard that you can use. And then from there, I recommend doing the 2 birthday cake method to start, just because, and again, there are more ways of doing this. This is just my recommendation, because if lure misses a birthday cake and a cream pie would not take it out, and then, so again, it goes back to that bad RNG, that bad luck. And there's a lot of bad luck. Not often in Uber VPs, but just in general. It's like, stuff always misses when you need it to hit. So yeah, but basically though, if you use 2 birthday cakes and they hit, even if lure misses, that's still enough to take out the level 12, which is nice. So again, from there, you just kind of work with what you have. And so this is just done because, again, that team mentality, you just need to, it's all for the team. Just basically, we all want to win, we all want to help each other out, and we all want to put ourselves in the best position possible to win. So that communication is key. Now, what other regard? Level 7 gag tracks. Oh. It's so difficult because it's like, so for my Uber, for example, you've seen he has organic throw, meaning he gets a free birthday, or yeah, well, okay, the birthday cake's very helpful because it does 110, which is helpful for lured level 11s, but the wedding cake, get a free wedding cake each day. That's what that's where I was going with it. I was thinking 2 different thoughts at once, but basically though, free wedding cake each day, which is kind of nice in case he goes sad, gets to pick one, and all that. But it's one of those things, how do you know when to use the level 7? Because you see cogs coming out and you figure, oh, okay, well, we have enough to use sound, like we could do, 3 foghorns in a trunk, and, or, however it works, however you want to do it. But sound misses, and then you go sad, you lose, if you had all 3 level 7s, for example, or 2 level 7s or whatever, and then you lose them, and it's just so sad because it's like, it's going to take a little bit to get those back. And realistically, it's so difficult because there's the phrase use it or lose it. But at the same time, it's very difficult because in a way, you don't know what RNG is going to be against you. So realistically, it just kind of goes back to that gut feeling. Whenever you kind of feel like, this should be used, or you have a line of 11s or a line of 12s, and it's just like, this seems like a good opportunity to use it. I'd say you would much rather want to use it and, at least make it through than try and save it for another time and regret losing it. If there's ever a situation that comes up where it's like, feel like it could be a dangerous situation, I'd say you might want to consider using it, or at least if you have. Now, granted, they did change the way that some of the SOS cards worked. Oh, I'm at the SOS cards. I'm thinking, what am I doing? But anyway, but if you have like a Toontown hit, for example, that increases the chance, and again, because again, it did change, so it's like it increases the chance of Toontown hitting, or if you have a cogs miss, which decreases the cogs chance of hitting by a significant amount. If you can use any of that, do it if someone could lure, and then you can work it out from there. But or if someone else uses it, you use a level 7. However, again, it's all about that communication and discussion, however you want to go about that. Again, it's all about that strategy and how you want to use level 7 SOS cards, doodles, etc. Okay, so next. So I talked a lot about Sellbot Ubers. People were wondering, you said you would get to Cashbot Ubers. Why have you not talked about Cashbot Ubers? Guess what? We're doing that right now. Right now. So it is important to consider. So I talked about what's a Sellbot Uber. Well, I phrased it as what's an Uber, but I meant what's a Sellbot Uber. Anyway, though, what's a Cashbot Uber now specifically? Cashbot Uber completes the task line up to the point through obtaining their Cashbot suit in the Donald Streamland task line. They typically don't receive their full Sellbot suit. They can, but again, they don't really VP because, again, if you're just doing, Cashbot Ubers, it's not going to work out because of how you progress through the main task line. It's a lot more narrow in terms of the amount of laugh you can have. It's not as much of a variety as Sellbot Ubers, for example. So there's not as much wiggle room. So you're probably not going to be using that tune for a VP. Because again, as you progress through the task line, the Cashbot Uber is more than likely going to have 71 or 72 laugh when they obtain their full Cashbot suit. And they stop at that point too. I should clarify in case it wasn't clear that they do not move on past that point. Once they obtain their Cashbot suit, their full Cashbot disguise, that is it. I see a lot of Cashbot Ubers at 72 laugh, but I'm fairly certain that 71 is considered the lowest amount, or the lowest amount it could possibly be. That's like the perfect number, 71. But I see a lot at 72 because somewhere along the way, it's probably due to fishing. If I had to guess, because there are a lot of tasks that require fishing along the way, it's probably due to that. So again, it's always important. Please make sure you know how many species of fish you have. You can check that in your book. I got really excited about that. I don't know why. I have things I have not sold yet. I have no idea why. But again, for those of you who might be, a couple fish away from 70, there is hope. But for the purposes of Ubers, because again, if I can do this, you can. But for Ubers, anyway, getting back to that, please keep track of how many fish you have. That's more than likely where any extra laugh come from. The max amount of laugh a cash. So again, because there's not as much wiggle room, the max amount of laugh a Cashbot Uber could have is 78. So if you're at 72, which is typically what you see a lot of cash bot Ubers at, then you get a +5 from, when you max your cash bot disguise. 72 plus 5 is 77 if my math skills serve me right, and so that's only one less than the max amount. So you see how difficult that gets to be. So again, keeping track of that is important. Not doing any gardening, not except for obviously for planting gags, so you get your organic track, whatever that may be. Choose sound. You will choose sound. No, I'm just kidding. But whatever gag track you want to have is your organic. Trying to think. Not doing obviously any kart racing or golfing, just any of the activities outside of, because the trolley's fine. You can do the trolley to gain jelly beans, but that's really the only activity, quote, activity that can be done. And again, communication is key in all this for the actual Uber runs itself, for CashBot Ubers. If you're creating, you might need to say something like, I need a safe. Or, you might want to say like, I don't have that gag track, or I'm out of something, or just something to at least say something to indicate that, you're strategizing differently, essentially, just to let people know that you have a different plan in mind, something we need to. So again, but yeah, 78 laugh is the max. That's kind of important. So again, but you gain the cash mod cog disguise through Toon Task, which is why it's a little more dedicated, because you go all the way through part 2 of DDL, and you don't, Donald's Dreamland, that is rather, and you don't even complete the entirety of the main task line. And again, you get cog bucks either through via the cogs on the street during invasions, or in buildings, or getting cog bucks in mints even once you reach a certain extent. As a general guide, I think for coin mints it's around 356 to 544 cog bucks. For a dollar mint it's 679 to about 1004 cog bucks. And for the big money, for the bullion mint, about 1,202 to 1,496. That's kind of what I have gathered. And again, cashbot Ubers are still considered Ubers, at least in my mind, and definitely in the minds of a lot of people. They are definitely Ubers in a regard. Now, there is less of a chance, definitely, of them going sad in a CFO because, well, again, it's a lot harder for a 70 laugher to go sad than it is for a 25 laugher, for example. So, there's not that difficulty degree of going sad, but, it's not like you're an entire row of 139s taking on the CFO, the Cashbot CFO. Alright, so moving on. This is probably one of the last sections. An Uber's best friend is their doodle. It's probably the last piece of miscellaneous advice I could give. A doodle is an Uber's best friend. So, personally, I recommend looking for, doodle qualities on DudeHQ, trying to see what qualities are available in doodles, just trying to see what's available, whether you should wait. Now, my personal recommendation is once you find something you like, a lot of good luck with Donald's Dreamland doodles, just buying them there. They are the most expensive, but I've just had a lot of good luck with them. I just kind of figured that, that's probably the best way to go. Now, you can even if you don't have enough jelly beans right now, you can afford a doodle. Specifically, I know that like Superstars and After Hours Cafe, two fantastic Toontown community servers, which there are links to them on my YouTube page, so definitely go check those out. But they each host a Bean Fest once a month, and so definitely check out those servers to learn more about those Bean Fests. And you'll definitely gain enough jelly beans in no time to be able to afford even the most expensive noodle. No problem there. So it is convenient to be able to afford a doodle, and then being able to trade your doodle by going into your estate and going like, hey, jump or do whatever, and however that goes. But yeah, so basically though, jump seems to be the most used one for Ubers, especially Sellbot Ubers. You don't see a lot of doodles in Cashbot Uber situations, but it is still useful in some regards in that respect. But again, with Sellbot Ubers, you will see, jump used a lot because very high accuracy, and you gain 10 laugh, which 10 laugh doesn't, if it works, at least if it works and it's maxed. If you've traded up your doodle, enough and it is maxed, it will do, it'll give a lot. It'll give 10, which is a lot for an Uber, especially, yeah. So that's really the best advice I could give. I hope this was comprehensive as much as possible. I tried to encapsulate both, Sellbot Ubers and Cashbot Ubers. As for what we do, at Superstars. But yeah, definitely, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. If I missed anything, please feel free to ask about that as well. That's all I have. So with that, I want to thank you all so much. And hopefully I'll see you next time for more Toontown content. Thank you so much.